Woman Who Chat is sponsored by Grow Radio. Grow Radio is an online radio station dedicated to bringing you a different podcast on the hour, every hour. I'm proud that Woman Who Chat is played on Grow Radio every Tuesday at 3 p.m. and Friday at 8 a.m. and to be a part of their podcasting community. If you want to listen to the station, explore their shows, check out many of the blogs to improve your podcasting skills, or get your podcast onto Grow Radio, head over to growradio.uk today. Welcome to Woman Who Chat, and today I'm chatting with Lisa Cressy of Super Being. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
I should say the award-winning Lisa Cressy of Super Being, and we'll come on to the award later on. But first, introduce us. Tell us what you do.
Yes, so yeah, Lisa Cressy, you've just mentioned about Super Being. I'm the founder of Super Being, and Super Being is all about being your super self. So I'm a mindset coach, or I like to call it more a mindset mentor, and a hypnotherapist. So it's very much about using the power of our minds to help transform lives.
Fantastic. And have you always done this, or what's your journey? What were you doing many years ago, and did you ever envisage that you were going to be doing this?
No, so I didn't. I literally, no, absolutely not. If you'd spoken to me sort of 3-4 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know where my life is going. And it took me into my 40s to get to that point where I was like, oh, this is it. I've had 25 years in the corporate world. I have fallen into jobs. You know how some people they have their careers talks. I want to do this. This is what I'm saying. That's like, that's not me. I don't know. What is it? What is it? And then I thought, oh, it's okay. When I get into my 20s, I'll know what I'm supposed to do when I grow up. And then I got into my 30s. I know soon it will happen. And then I got into my 40s. I still didn't know. Really fell into different jobs in the corporate world and did quite well because I'm just a hard worker. But it didn't feel like it was suited to my skills and, you know, what I call my superpowers. And it just didn't feel right. And then I experienced severe burnout about 6 years ago. And my confidence was absolutely on the floor, and it affected everything. So, you know, I just didn't want to get out of bed. And I was in this really strange position because when you look at something on paper, you know, my life looked like it ticked all the boxes. You know, you've got the kids and the house and the high-flying job. You've got all of these things. So why was I feeling like I was dragging myself through life? And you also feel really guilty. So like, who am I to complain when there's everyone else that's got, you know, loads more problems? But it got to that point where I was like, is this it? Is this life? Is this, you know, surely there's more. And then I really started to work on myself and started to find different things that helped me create that self-awareness and sort of started to channel me to where my purpose was meant to be, and relieve that stress. I started to feel a lot better, get this clarity. And I found mindset techniques. I found neurolinguistic programming, NLP. I found hypnosis. I found all these coaching techniques. And my background, my degree was in psychology. So I've always been obsessed with the power of the mind and how we can, well, we're the creators of our lives. You know, everything that you've achieved in your life started with an idea. And when you realize that actually our ideas create our lives, those self-limiting ideas and beliefs hold us back, and then the empowering ones drive us forward. And once I started to get this, I was like, how come I didn't realize this for so many years? I wanted to share it with the world. So like, this has made such a difference to me. I want everyone to know about this. You know, this should be taught in schools. I want kids to know this. I want people to know this. I don't want people to go through their corporate journey with the same kind of stress levels that I did with, you know. So when qualified, became a qualified NLP master practitioner, clinical hypnotherapist, life coach, went back to college and trained in positive psychology, which is the science of happiness and well-being, which I just love. And then left the corporate world. Finally, I was like trying to push myself. I was thinking, can I give up that corporate salary? Can I give all of this stuff as this senior leader? I've just got to this point. Finally did it with the, you know, support of my family, and it's been the best thing ever. I am now fully aligned to my passions, my purpose. I've got my ikigai, I'm absolutely, yeah, I know you've spoken about that before, and I just absolutely love it. And now I'm making these big, helping guide and coach and mentor people to make these big decisions and these big life changes themselves. And that just fills me with joy every day.
I can see how passionate about this are. I mean, just listening to you, the listeners will be able to gauge that. But if you're watching this, you'll see you're totally animated. You can tell this passion comes from within. And I'm a big follower of the Ikigai. I believe everyone should fulfill and live their purpose. We're only here once, why be miserable and happy doing things we shouldn't? But I feel on listening to your journey that you were almost ahead of your time, because you did that psychology, but mindset wasn't talked about then. It wasn't a thing. And it's almost as if you've had to wait for it to become a thing, for you to actually step into your purpose and do what you're passionate about.
Yes. I've never thought about it like that before, because sometimes I say to myself, why didn't I do this years ago? But actually, like you say, it needed to evolve to this point. Yes, because I now sort of call myself a coach of the conscious and subconscious. And I think if I'd started to say that to people even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it can be seen as quite woo-woo, but the science has caught up now, which is great.
That's the thing. I think when we do these, you were obviously driven in that direction because you did your degree in that area. But people have only recently, probably about 10 years, started talking about mindset, and and in the business world, probably only in the last 5 years, you say about fixed mindset, growth mindset, and different ways of viewing things. I'm all about perception. Everything happens to us, good things and bad things, but it's how we take that on board, how we internalize that, and how we react to it is very much how we deal with things on a day-to-day basis. And I think unless we channel those thoughts in the right directions, which is where you come in, how to work with people so that they have the right mindset and can cope with things, can cope with life.
Yes. And it is that kind of coping, because and I always find that when I work with people, it's that big self-awareness piece is the massive step. And then when you get there, so that's sort of the coaching element, but then the mentoring element is actually what's the tools and techniques to build this mindset, to make this positive mindset, this mindset that's going to create the future that I want rather than limit me. It's more about the unlimited possibilities. Yeah, so that's really important, because we don't have control, as you were just intimating, to anything that's external to us. We have no control over the traffic. We have no control over whether our boss is in a bad mood. We have no control over any of these things, but we have ultimate control of what's going on internally, how we respond. And it's remembering that, because I think sometimes we can feel like we're really out of control. It's like, all these things are happening to me. Yeah, but you can control how you respond to them.
Yeah. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about woo, and I'm not very woo. I think I'm spiritual, but I'm not very woo, and it all frightens me. But this is scientifically backed. This is a good piece of work to do on yourself. But why do you think people tend to bat it away? Why do you think some people, I'm not going there, I don't want to talk about mindset? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I think there is that perception of a bit of the woo-woo. So maybe not so much with mindset coaching. And I did used to call myself just a mindset coach when I went out of the corporate world, because I was thinking, I can't say to people that I'm a hypnotherapist and this, they're going to think she's gone weird, But now I'm kind of embracing that, because I feel like I bring together the science and the spiritual. So I think that there's two different things where people can be a bit worried about it. I think, first of all, people just haven't thought about it enough, and they're too busy. So it's like, I don't have time for any of that mindset stuff. I've got things to do. And they don't realize, actually, if you work on that, you'll get to those goals a lot quicker. But then I think there's that perception, people can be a little bit scared if I start opening that box, about mindset, what's going to come out? Or, really, do we have to work on our mind the same as we do our body? But I say to people, you'd go to the gym and you would keep working on your body. You need to do the same with your mind. We have to train our minds. We have a natural disposition to go down that negativity bias. So we actually need to train our minds to set ourselves up for success. And it's been in the sports world for years. You know, they have performance coaches, mindset coaches. We should have this for business owners, for leaders, for in schools, for kids, you know, to set yourself up for success. It's, I say it's like life hacks. You know, it's just life hacks to set yourself up. But I think people sometimes can be a bit scared by that. And also, because there's such simplicity in it, I think a lot of people can say, can it really be that simple? And it can. It is going back to the basics, you know, that can really help us. Yeah.
People are a lot more accepting. I remember going to one of my very first networking events many decades ago, and I walked in and I met this lady and she said, I'm a life coach. And I sort of went, oh gosh, you know, and it sort of blurred. And I thought, oh, another life coach, because it just wasn't accepted. It just wasn't, you know, and nobody seemed to specialize in anything. But I think coaching now, and you said about the sports arena, so athletes have been having coaches for decades, working on their mindset and teaching them visualization techniques, teaching them positivity, you know, see the finish line, visualize the cup, visualize the trophy and the medal. And that's how they worked with athletes. So why wouldn't you do it in business?
Exactly. And I mean, the science now backs this up. I mean, there was a study done a few years ago where they took two groups of people, and one group was doing bicep curls, lifting weights, and one group was just thinking about it. They literally didn't lift a finger. And after something like 3 weeks, they tested the muscles of the group that had been lifting the weights. And of course, their muscle density had grown. They built their muscles, I think, by 40-something%. But the group that had just thought about it, their muscles had grown as well by about 32. This is the thing. It is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm not saying you don't have to go to the gym at all.
I was seeking that as a passport. I thought, I've got a pass out now, you know, I can just think about it.
Oh, what you can do is when you are at the gym, really thinking about your muscles will help them grow even more. But this just goes to show that we can, you know, the same neural pathways, the same neurons in the brain fire up when you're thinking something as to when you're actually doing it. And the science shows that now. So this is the power of the mind. And they're now working with stroke victims and people with spinal cord injuries, and just, you know, those visualizations about yourself coming back together. So if you're doing that with the physical body, do that with your mind, the visualizations of your business growing, or, you know, seeing yourself there on stage if you want to be on stage, or, you know, if you want to work with a certain group of people, visualizing that, it helps your subconscious have that goal. And your subconscious mind is like a goal-seeking machine. It just wants to do whatever you tell it. So when we tell it all these worries, it's like, okay, that doesn't sound a very good future. I'm going to procrastinate. We're not going anywhere near there. When we set these exciting visions, it's like it's literally setting us up for success. You know, our mind just wants to go for it. So yeah, it's so powerful. But there's a science now behind it, which I love.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you can put that into practical things. If you're carrying a tray of plates or something and thinking, I mustn't drop this, you'll drop it. And in my case, don't fall over.
Yeah.
I fall over.
Yes.
But you have to think positive. I'm going to walk with grace and ease along here, and I'm going to get to the end. And that's the sort of strategy you have to adopt, isn't it? You have to, and I tell people when they want to speak on stage, visualize having already given the keynote and visualize that standing ovation. And once people have visualized that and can see it, then it drives them towards the delivery and be more confident about the delivery. And that, again, is just overcoming those blocks in your mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's exactly the same. It's that setting the subconscious the goal. Imagine everyone standing up and that they're clapping and they're, you know, everyone's engaged, and that gets you excited, you know, so you're much more likely to do it. So, and that's what it is. And it is so simple, but it's the positive visualizations as opposed to the negative worries. Yeah. Focus.
As in, I'm going to fall off the stage, or I'm going to forget my words, and all those things that everyone comes to me about, you know, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. Yes, you can. Obviously, you know, being on stage and having the standing ovation and the applause and the whoops, you had yourself recently because you were a Solopreneur Award winner. So why is it the first time you've entered the awards, Lisa?
Yes. Yes, the first time I entered the awards, and the whole process was was phenomenal, actually, and it set my business and my vision for sort of 3 to 6 months and 9 months after that on a bit of a different trajectory, because it is, you start to really think about everything that I've achieved when you're putting in the application. And then it was like, right, yeah, so really let me think about my visions for the future and sort of up leveling that. So it was great right from that starting bit of the process through to, well, obviously winning was just phenomenal as well. But yeah, first time applying for Solopreneur.
Well, congratulations. And it's great because there are people that come back year after year after year. And even those that have won awards still apply the following year. And they say they like that piece, that being able to reflect and look back at their previous entry and do that comparison thing and think, gosh, look where I've come in 12 months. You know, I've achieved all that.
Yes.
So, and I say to people, how often do you sit down and do that exercise? You don't, because we're all too busy doing what we're doing. We very rarely take that reflection piece and actually look at what have I done to get here, and what are my goals and aspirations for the future, and what challenges have I had and have I overcome them? And that's why
Yes.
the questions are deliberately drafted to make you think about your business.
Yeah.
And so you've got something of value.
Yes, yes, and I'd submitted for the Women's Who Awards and was a finalist there, and because of that whole process, that's what kind of like spurred me on as well. It's like I really enjoyed that whole process. It does make you look back and then think forward. So, yeah, that kind of spurred me on to, even though not winning for those awards, I was like, yeah, let's enter again for Solopreneur.
And you sat in the audience, obviously, and I'd call people up at random. And I used to call people up in alphabetical order, but they got wise to that. So I
No.
called people up randomly, and then the award doesn't necessarily happen straight after you've been on stage. And you know, you're sitting there and really you don't know until the end of the afternoon whether you've won an award or not. I always stress it's not all about the winning, it's about the journey and what learning and positives you can take from that journey. Bit of mindset work there. But what was the feeling when your name was called? I saw the visuals, I've seen the video, and I've seen all sorts of clips from what happened, but what was that realization when you heard your name called?
Well, I was actually quite early on. I was one of the first. There was just a real shock there. And then I think you second guess yourself. You're like, was it? But me too was sat next to him. It was like, oh, so I was like, oh, they must have said my name. And then it was just, I mean, I've been imagining this. I've been doing all the positive visualizations. I've been thinking of myself, accepting it, saying to you, thank you. So I'd visualize all of this. But then it's a complete and utter shock when it happens in reality. So yeah, just complete shock. I think my words were, I was just stumbling over words on the stage. I don't even remember what I said, except it was recorded, so someone else played it back. But yeah, just such gratitude, shock, overwhelming, but just an amazing, amazing feeling.
Yeah, I get to read those words, the judges' words out, the comments. I read them out on stage, and I don't think there's one person that actually takes all that in, which is why I send them out afterwards, because there's no way you can take all that in, because I think the emotion and the just everybody feel, and that's what I love about the Solopreneur Awards and my other awards too, is that everybody in the room, no matter whether they're there as a finalist or not, and whether they win or not, they're all there cheering for everybody whose name is called, and it's that just energy that it, as standing on the stage myself, I just feel like this gush of energy towards the stage for
Yes.
everybody that's called up, which is amazing.
Feels like a whole party atmosphere all afternoon. But when you walk into that room, it is literally like a sort of like an empowerment hug of being lifted up. You do feel that energy, you know, there's just phenomenal people there. You know, the group that you've brought together is just absolutely amazing. And I working in the corporate world, there was just, I don't know, I think you see a different side of humanity sometimes. Everyone's so pressured that you can kind of see the worst side of people. And then when you walk in there and everyone's so supportive, empowering, you know, even when you were speaking to people in between the sessions, people are like, how are you doing? It was kind of like, how can I help? Oh, you need to speak to so-and-so. You need to do this. Let me introduce you to her over there because you two would have a really good connection. And that's what's great. You feel that as soon as you walk in the room.
And that's why I say it's a place for networking and connection, and that's a massive thing to me about the, you know, it's not just an awards thing. The awards are incidental to the bringing people together.
Yes.
we've chatted a lot about obviously mindset and the work that you do and how you got there. We've chatted about your award win, so congratulations. What's next? What's on the horizon? I mean, you said you wrote those goals and aspirations down. So what's next that's exciting for you?
Yes, there's two different avenues I was writing down. Is absolutely working with kids and young people, because my own journey when I started doing a lot of reflective work was, I was bullied all the way through high school, and it was really difficult, and my confidence was on the floor. And then I realized that that's just followed through all the way into my career, where you don't feel good enough, you don't fit in. So it was a lot of work on that. So now I don't want kids and young people to go their whole lives without these tools and techniques. So I've started working in schools, but there's going to be even more of that. I want to work with colleges. I want to work with young people so they can build their confidence and have these life hacks and these life tools, so they don't have to go through life as I did, kind of not feeling good enough. So absolutely, that's really important. And then working with sort of business owners and executives and leadership teams on creating up leveling and creating the best version of themselves, because the ripple effect when you work with business owners and leadership is absolutely huge. If you create an inspirational business owner, if you create an inspirational leader, then actually everybody else underneath that or around them, they have that ripple effect, and it really makes a difference. So now it's about impacting as many people as possible. Yeah.
Sounds really exciting, and I wish you all the best with that, Lisa. It's amazing to see how animated you are about everything you've done and are doing, but everything about the future as well. I can definitely feel that this goes through the whole super being of you. Before you leave us, I always ask my guests to leave the audience with a top tip piece of wisdom or piece of advice. What would yours be?
Yeah, well, actually, we were just talking before about that power of community and collaboration. I would say the big tip is to collaborate, to ask for help. Sometimes we can feel like we need to do everything on our own, and actually we don't. And I went to this sales and marketing day a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying, if you want to find your ideal client, if you want to get into a certain organization, do you know what? In your phone book, there's so many contacts there, already in your phone book. So sometimes we can overcomplicate and think, I've got to go in and draft these proposals for a business, or I've got to do this. No, someone in your phone book will know someone to speak to. So it's like, ask for help just by starting with your friends and your networks. They will know someone, and people want to help. So like, its big tip is, don't sort of procrastinate and get stuck in that kind of, this is too hard. Someone in your phone book or your network will be able to help you out.
That's it. We're always only one step away from the person we need to speak to. Somebody somewhere in our circle will know who we need to speak to. So great piece of advice there. It's been great talking to you, Lisa. Great having a chat. That's Lisa Cressy from Super Being.
Thank you.